Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the 70th episode of the Sheldon Fan Club podcast.
It is episode 70.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is actually the Literary AF podcast. Sheldon Fan Club is my other podcast.
Ah, yes.
I'm your host, Sheldon,
I'm Danny.
and we're here today to talk to you about books.
Yep.
One book in particular, I think.
Just one.
And what is the name of that book?
This book is called The Pawn,
Mm-hmm.
and it's written by Skye Warren.
Ooh. Okay, well, before we get into that,
Yep.
first we gotta complain.
Yep.
We gotta rant. We're looking for new intro and outro music. So if any of you are like, hey, I can make music, email us or something. Because YouTube's been flagging our current supposedly public domain copyright-free music.
Yeah, we got a song that was supposed to be public domain.
Yeah.
But it has been flagging every single one of our videos on YouTube, so time to get a new one, I guess. But, I guess we're also just missing a chunk of YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's weird too.
There's a weird disconnect between Podbean and YouTube itself.
Yeah.
Because YouTube, you can only upload a video once every 7 days. So, if it hasn't been 7 days since the last time we recorded, it won't put the video up on YouTube. So, there's just, a really weird gap. But
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense, because there's, 20, sequential videos missing, so...
Yeah, it's weird. It's there's at least 15-ish videos just missing from the archive. It'll go episode 50 and then episode 52, and then from episode 56 to episode 68 are just all missing.
Yeah.
So we're not quite sure. If you're listening to this on YouTube, can I recommend checking out our Spotify?
Yeah, we got a Spotify, we have iTunes, we're on Podbean. Everything's up over there.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, there haven't been any other problems in this. But YouTube's not... We get most of our listens on Spotify and iTunes, so...
Yeah.
It's not huge. I'll try to get the old ones up, though, if I can, if there's an easy way to do it.
Yeah, and if they don't get flagged and
If they
taken
don't get-
down or something.
I'm pretty sure they didn't get flagged or taken down, though, because usually it would be like, hey, your video's got a copyright strike on it. So...
Yeah.
And I don't
think
have
they
any of those, so...
I think YouTube typically sends out a message before they take anything down.
Yeah, and the ones that have been getting flagged are just little, by the way, this music can't be monetized because it's not yours
Yeah.
notifications, so they're
So-
still up anyways. But
Free Music Archive is very misleading.
it is. So, if you can make music, reach out. We can work something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just want something very chill.
Yeah.
So if you're an expert in chill music, hit us up. And what's our email, just off the top, in case there is anybody?
LiteraryAFPod@gmail.com.
Great.
Yeah.
And now it's time to get into, what was the name of the book again?
The Pawn.
The Pod.
The Pawn. P-A-W-N.
The Pond. It's a book about frogs living in a small body of water.
Not quite.
I'd read that book, though.
Sure.
Who's the author?
Skye Warren.
Okay.
And this is it is the first book in a trilogy of books,
Mm-hmm.
I believe called the Endgame series.
Ooh.
And I'm just going to say up front that the only reason I'm reading these ones is because I want to get to some of the books later in this series.
Okay.
So this is just kind of I got to get through it. I'm not reading it because I specifically wanted to read this one. But
But it's a trilogy, you said, right?
well, there's the trilogy, which
Yeah.
is 3 books that follow this main character, whose name is
Veronica Mars.
I can't remember because this actually I have to talk about this later, so remind me to bring it up. But this book is written in first person present tense.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
So I cannot remember her name because I read this book one day, a week and a half ago.
So, protagonist.
So this protagonist, and her male counterpart, Gabriel Miller. I can remember his name because he's on the back of the book. So it's 3 books about these 2 characters, and then there is a spin-off series
Mm-hmm.
featuring two side characters from... At least one side character from this book and somebody else. I'm not sure if the other person is going to pop up later or not, but
Okay.
those are the ones that I really want to read. And these I just feel like I need to get out of the way so I can understand going into the other two.
So you're watching... So this is like Iron Man and Thor, and you're trying to get to Avengers.
Kind of.
Okay.
But less big, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
It's not like an ensemble cast of stuff happening. So...
I tried to look up the Goodreads to see if I could find the name, and it doesn't even say. It just talks about Gabriel Miller.
Yeah, I'm trying to skim through the beginning of the book to figure it out. I don't see it. See, this is my first issue, is that it is written in first-person present tense. So, I don't like that.
Oh.
Like, it's just not... It's difficult to read, I guess, for me, because romance books are typically written in the third-person past tense. I think that's... Most books are typically written in third-person past tense.
Somewhat. Oh, Avery, apparently.
Oh, yes, it is. There it is.
I had to go through some random person's review on Goodreads to find it.
Right.
First person present is great for action where you don't know, where you want there to be stakes, like if you don't know if the protagonist is going to live or die.
I guess, yeah, because everything's happening in the moment.
Yeah, because if it's past tense, you're kind of set at ease already, knowing nothing's going to happen to the main character.
Past tense is like you're being told a story. Present tense is you're in the story.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
But with, like, romance books... I don't know. It's just like, for instance, I couldn't remember the heroine's name at all. Like, it was just I and me and my, and that makes it really hard.
Yeah.
To, I guess, talk about it later.
What's the like plot breakdown?
Plot breakdown is basically, this rich girl. It opens on like her graduation day. And she's having a party, and everything's perfect. Like, her family's super rich. I think if it's not LA, it's basically LA or, like, upstate New York or something. And they're all very rich people having a very fancy party. And she's talking about how she's going to get married to her perfect... He's going to be a senator boyfriend, and she's going to university in a couple months, and everything's great. And then it... essentially cuts to, I think, 2 years from then.
Okay.
Where her father was basically somebody put out a bunch of paperwork that proved that her father was ripping a lot of people off.
Mm-hmm.
And he was taken to court for that, I guess, fraud. And I can't remember what the actual word for it is, where you're like embezzling and stuff like that.
Okay.
And her family's basically lost everything. And her father was jumped in a back alley a couple months prior.
Yeah.
And was basically just, like, beaten within a couple inches of his life. And now he's barely conscious most of the time. He's always on painkillers. He's in a hospital bed 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, like, a live-in nurse. And she basically dropped out of school. A, because they have no money anymore, and B, because she has to take care of her father now. And what happens is she ends up deciding that she's gonna make some money back because they're about to lose everything. The house, she sold off all of her furniture, so there's, like, nothing in this house except for a couple old couches and her father's hospital bed. And her way to make money is essentially to auction off her virginity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so kind of like Memoirs of a Geisha?
You know what? Yeah. It's
We do have to talk about that book sometime.
We do. I love that book. That's one of my faves.
We should make a list.
Yes.
Sorry, getting distracted. Okay, let's get back to the book.
So she's gonna sell off her virginity
Okay.
to make some money to save her family, basically, her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And she does this by going to a... What's the word for it? He's like a... I'm completely blanking on the word, but he's a bad
Vampire.
guy. He's not a vampire. There are no vampires in this book, unless the books go way off the rails in the next couple books. But he's like a... He's not a mob boss, but he's got like a crime syndicate thing going on.
Oh, okay.
And his name is Damon Scott.
Ooh, that's a good name for a...
That is the name of the hero in the books that I want to read.
Oh,
So the
okay.
books that I want to read are about Damon Scott. But she goes to this guy, and she's like, everybody knows who I am, and I need to make money, so this is what I can offer. And she meets one of Damon Scott's lackeys, basically,
Okay.
Gabriel Miller, who he's kind of like cold and distant, as, you know, romance heroes want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they basically set this up where she comes in to take some sexy pictures, and then they will put them out among the elite and to generate interest,
Okay.
and then everybody will come in and, I guess, bid on her. And at the same time this is happening, she calls him her uncle, but he's not her uncle. He's like an old family friend.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of her dad's friends, and he's old. And he comes by and he's like, you know, I know things are tough for you, which is why, you know, I'd like to save you, and, you know, let's get married.
Okay.
And she's like, you're old, and you're my dad's friend, and this is weird. And kind of sends him on his way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point where, I think it was like that night, there was somebody actually stalking around in her yard.
Okay.
And she, like, heard them banging around outside. She turned on the floodlights, and there was some guy, like, trying to cut through something in her yard. I don't actually think that gets resolved.
Okay.
Because this is part of a trilogy, so those are, I guess, going to be later plot points. But I do remember that happening. So it's auction day, and there's a whole, like, we'll make you pretty with makeup or whatever, and then we'll dress you in some sexy clothes, and then they throw her out on
Makeover!
Yeah. They throw her out on a stage, and then there's a whole scene where dudes are, like, bidding on her.
Yeah.
And, her uncle ends up being there. He was one of the guys who was there. He didn't know she was going to be the one who was being auctioned off.
Ooh.
And he was just there to, I guess, buy a virgin.
That makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So what the terms of the agreement is, whoever wins her for a month.
Okay.
She'll just sleep with him for a month, basically. And what ends up happening is there's a bidding war between a guy who I cannot remember, he was not important, and her uncle. And they're just bidding back and forth on her, and she's like, oh no, this is terrible. Also, that guy is basically my uncle, and this is awful.
So wait, is he like actually an uncle, like a blood relation?
No, he is not a blood relation.
Okay.
She just keeps calling him her uncle because he was like her dad's best friend.
Yeah. That's still creepy, but like...
It's creepy as hell.
It's a save just a little bit.
It is not her literal uncle, but she does keep calling him that. And it's just weird. And she's like, you proposed to me yesterday, and you were already planning on coming to this thing to buy a virgin for a month. What would you... If I had said yes to your proposal, you still would have come to this, and you would have bid on a virgin for a month. Anyways, like, it was just so skeezy. It was terrible. And then, like, right at the end, Gabriel Miller just kind of, like, stands up at the back of the room and he bets, like, $1 million on her or something.
Ooh.
And he wins. And then he just kind of sweeps her out of the room. And there's... I don't think the uncle comes back for... he's not brought up, like, for the rest of the book. The rest of the book actually takes place in Gabriel Miller's apartment.
Okay.
He brings her, like, straight to his place after, and he doesn't do anything right away. They just kind of talk for, like, a couple minutes, and then he says... I forget what he says, but he kind of storms off.
Okay.
And just leaves her there, like, sitting on the floor of his apartment, and she's like, okay, well, I don't know. And she just starts drinking.
Perfect.
From his bar, and she gets really drunk on moonshine. Because he had a bottle of moonshine sitting out that I guess his father had made. It was the last bottle of moonshine his father had made before he died.
Okay.
And she just started drinking it. And she's like, hey, I drank your alcohol, but don't worry, I just drank the cheap stuff. And he's like, that was really important. But, okay. And he just kind of... He carries her off to bed. That's it. That's kind of where it ends. He doesn't...
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, so where would we put this on our...
Oh, no, there's still more to the book. That's where that whole situation ends. But
okay.
This is actually... I'm trying to find where this is in the book, because it actually... So for a romance book, there's usually some kind of, air quotes, encounter between the two main characters.
Yeah.
Like, I'd say like halfway through the book is usually when things start heating up.
So like first hookup kind of thing?
Hookup or kiss or, you know... I'm not going to get into specifics.
Yeah, I was going to suggest something that I thought better of it.
You know, there is an encounter between them of sexual nature, typically. And this book...
They hold hands.
Well, they do end up doing stuff, but it happens like 200 pages into the book. And it is a 290-page book.
Oh.
Which is weird.
How I'm jealous of your books. I think I'm 290 pages from the end of Count of Monte Cristo.
Well,
and I've been
you
reading
do that
it for
to
a month.
yourself. I've told you you should try some of my books, and you could read them in a day, and it would be super easy.
Yeah, but then how would I devote my life to a life of revenge if I didn't read Count of Monte Cristo?
That is fair. The Count is teaching you valuable life lessons in revenge.
Very true.
So he's kind of distant. There's not a whole lot about him. He ends up like paying for a full-time nurse from a really important fancy nurse place to come tend to her father, and he pays for physical therapists, and like he's got all that going on, so her father's taken care of at home while she's basically living in his apartment with him. They have a couple like sexy encounters.
Okay.
But they don't actually bone down until like the very end of the book.
How would you rate it on our scale? Remember, 1 is prude.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the list so I can find it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's see.
Prude subdued is 2. 3
we should
is...
write this down and just stick it to some of my podcast notes so we remember for next time.
I've got scarred in my memory. Prude, subdued, lewd, crude, and totally nude.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. I would call it lewd.
Oh, so that's a 3?
It would be a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
It's like middle of the pack.
Yeah.
It's not anything crazy. They have like a sexy game of chess. Chess is a recurring theme in this series because the books are called The Pawn, The Knight, and The Castle.
Okay.
And then the spin-off series about Damon Scott is called King and the Queen.
Okay.
So there's 5 books in total. And I like the chess theme. I thought that was cool. The covers all match. I always love it when you can get a series of books that have matching covers. That's really important. They have like a game of chess where they will trade off bits of information about themselves in exchange for somebody else's, like the other person's pieces.
Okay.
Which is kind of fun. And then, they end up like boning down in the last little bit of the book. And it's like kind of abrupt. She storms into his room and she's like, I want to have sex. And he's like, kind of drunk. But he's like, okay, fine. And then they do it.
You talked me into it.
And basically afterwards he just gets like super cold and he just like boots her out of his room. Like that's it. He's like, okay, I'm done. You can leave now. And she gets really mad and she storms out. It's very 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, okay.
Actually, you haven't read that, I guess. Have
No.
you seen the movie?
No.
Okay, well, the end of 50 Shades of Grey has them having an incident.
I've heard.
Yeah, and the end of the movie / book is she storms out of the apartment, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And in this one, they have an incident, and he's an asshole, and then she storms out of the apartment, and then she goes to her father's house, and she finds a foreclosure notice on the door. And the people that are foreclosing the house are Gabriel Miller's company. And then the book ends.
Owned.
So that's the book.
I bought you as a slave for a month, bought your virginity,
Yeah.
and guess what? Couldn't save your house, loser.
Yeah, well, yeah. Basically, his company's foreclosing on her house, and that's why I don't like books that are part of a series, I guess. Which is books that are part of a series that's not complete, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I have issues with I think every entry in a series should be a complete story in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why those Immortals After Dark books that I really like.
Yeah.
All of those books are standalone books. They all feature a main couple. They all have their own individual plot.
Mm-hmm.
They have overarching plots through all of the books, but you can just read one and that's a self-contained story.
Yeah.
Whereas this is one story that has been spread out over 3 books.
Yeah, see, I don't like that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if I had read this before the next book was out and I didn't know that it was a trilogy going in,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been really disappointed.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why I still haven't read a single Game of Thrones book.
Ugh.
Or Song of Ice and Fire book.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 100%.
It's not
thing's
done.
not complete.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a beginning, get super into it, and then...
It's over and it's not finished.
Yeah, have it be ended on a cliffhanger and then have no closure.
I've heard that he is working really hard on the next book.
Okay.
He had a blog post come out a couple days ago where he said that he has been finishing a whole bunch of chapters lately.
Okay.
And he's been really excited and he's still working on it and maybe next year it'll be out. Is essentially what came out of it.
Okay, well, if it works out like that, would
That's
be more
still
than
not the
pleased
last
to
book.
get into it.
That's the second to last book. There's still another one that has to come out before the series is over.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because the one coming out is A Winds of Winter.
Okay.
And there's supposed to be A Dream of Summer for the last one. So when this book is out, there's still going to be another one to come out. So, you'll be waiting a little while. But one day, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
And speaking of unfinished series, Patrick Rothfuss, I still have your number, man. You've got to finish that series.
The Kingmaker.
Yeah, King Killer.
King Killer.
It's Name of the Wind is the first one.
Yep. I have that one, but I haven't read it.
We should do that one on the podcast. That's a very good book.
But you just said it's an unfinished series. We'd just be mad about it the whole time.
Yeah, but it's the way the narrative's set up, there's a meta-narrative, which is unfinished.
Okay.
And then each story is kind of its own little narrative.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not as bad.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's he'll set something up, and then he'll, hint at a bunch of other stuff that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's dog, you gotta finish.
I've heard there's a lot of fairy stuff going on.
That is the second book. That is Wise Man's Fear.
Yeah.
It is, it has a prolonged, but it's not even really a sex scene, but it's he has this romantic tryst with a fairy.
Yeah.
In this weird fairy realm.
Right.
And it's just 200-ish pages out of the middle of the book that's this
really
whole different thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wow. That's impressive.
That's that's one I definitely want to cover at some point.
Yeah, we'll get around to it. I do own it. I bought A Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds, which we will have to do.
The new Hunger Games book.
The new Hunger Games book that just came out last month, I think.
And has been coming out to rousing praise.
Oh yes, it's also already half price, and it's been out for 30 days. So that's
some of that could be a virus too, I guess, because people aren't going to the bookstores as
I mean,
much, maybe?
I got it on Amazon.
Oh, it's half price on Amazon?
Oh yeah, it's $20 on Amazon, and MSRP is $36.99. So
that's disgusting for one book.
For a single hardcover book, absolutely, it's $36.99.
That is gross.
It's terrible, and that's not even the worst of it, because there's some, like I believe there's a book coming out called Docile.
Okay.
It's being published by Tor, and the hardcover, I think, was like $40. And it wasn't being released in paperback. And the Kindle edition is like $16. And it's just a regular sized book.
That's so gross.
It's absolutely terrible. Like, Kindle pricing and just book pricing in general is all over the place. And it really sucks.
Yeah. I think this just humbled me. I don't understand the industry very much, so I'm sure people are like, oh, it doesn't work that way. But, like, I think you should be releasing your... Like, hardcover's a little different. Like, you can charge, like, $10 more for a hardcover or whatever.
Yeah.
But you should be able to get a paperback for under $20, and Kindle should be, like, under $10 for sure.
That's usually how it is.
Yeah.
But there's just some really weird outliers. And people trying to, like, take advantage of Kindle pricing and stuff like that. Like, you can find... For romance books, for example, you can find, like, a 20-year-old romance book getting a re-release and being put on Kindle.
Okay.
And it'll be, like, $9. And it's like, this is a book that came out 20 years ago. You can find it for $1, like, at any used bookstore, basically. And they're trying to, I guess, pump more money out of it. It's kind of slimy.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
No, not at all. They just, like, slap a new cover on it. And they're like, here's a brand new book by this author. Pay $10 for it, please. So,
yeah,
it's sketch.
That's why I like buying books that are like 200 years old that have been released.
You don't have to worry about it.
It'll be like, oh, here's the Penguins Classic Edition for like $8.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sweet.
Yeah. Or you just find them for free on the internet.
How would you rate this book overall?
Oh, what did I give this book? I did put a rating up for this book on Goodreads.
I think I saw 3 stars.
I think it might have been a solid 3. And I reserve judgment to change this when I am further into the series. I did. I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah.
Because it's not amazing. But it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just not amazing.
It's kind of weird how, like, a book like Fellowship of the Ring it's not a complete story, but it still feels like I didn't get mad at the end of Fellowship. I wasn't like, oh, why couldn't they end it?
Did Fellowship end on a cliffhanger?
Well, it ended with Boromir turning on the group and then Sam and Frodo running off on their own.
Okay, well, that's a bit of a cliffhanger.
A little bit, but it was like, I think he just kind of, the way he did it felt like it was a conclusion because it was the end of the Fellowship.
Yeah.
But
this is like setting up plot points on the last 2 pages of the book.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we'll come back next time. It's like, yeah. And another issue I had with this book, I'm going to talk about some romance tropes right now.
Let's hear it.
All right. So the virgin heroine romance trope is a very tired trope.
I was going to make a joke about heroin the drug.
Oh, no. It's exhausting to have a heroine, just like in general. This isn't just romance, like if there's a sex encounter in a different genre.
Mm-hmm.
When the female character is a virgin, they're usually like super, oh no, what do I do? Oh no, it's so scary. And that's just exhausting. Like, I don't know, it's not like that ever, actually. And so it's a very tired trope. And there was a lot of that in this book. Which is why I was like, well, I'll sit here and read it, but I'm not going to be happy about it the whole time. But I mean, I knew that going in it was going to be there because it says right on the back that she's auctioning off her virginity.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't hide it.
No, it was no surprise. I just wish it hadn't been like such a, I have no idea how any of this is supposed to work.
Is the auctioning off or like the selling of oneself, is that like a romance trope at all?
Like prostitution?
Well, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's like It's borderline human trafficking.
Well, no, she's doing
Well,
it voluntarily.
Yeah, but she didn't sell herself for like a night or for an experience. She sold herself for a month.
Yeah, it was her choice to do it.
Yeah, but that's still like very borderline
It's
human slavery.
It's prostitution.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it slavery, but it's definitely like a trope. Like, if any of my family are listening right now, just, turn this down a little bit for a second. But basically, it's a
Maria, I'm looking at
Maria,
you.
we're looking right at you. Turn this off right now. It's like a BDSM, the sex slave trope, right?
Oh yeah.
That's not slavery. That's not like.
But slave is right in the title.
It is a mutual decision.
Yeah.
And it's voluntary, so I wouldn't put it on the same level as like.
So it's like
human
retail work, where you're kind of selling yourself into slavery,
It is
but it's your choice.
It is prostitution, is what it is. Yeah, and that's definitely a trope that comes up. Look at what's it called?
Harry Potter.
Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts and Richard
Oh
Gere.
yeah.
Yeah, the hooker with a heart of gold who was paid for like a week of her time to live in Richard Gere's hotel room.
Oh, I still haven't seen that movie.
You haven't seen that movie?
No.
You should watch it. It's good. It's a classic.
That is true. That is a classic.
It's classic. So.
All right. Well,
that's about it. Yeah, I'll have to read the rest and then I'll do another episode. I might fit like the last 2 books into one episode though.
Okay.
Because they're not very long, and the typeface in this book is huge. It's a like 300-page book, and I read it in a morning.
Oh, nice.
So.
All right. Well, okay. So where can people find us?
People can find us on Twitter, LiteraryAF.
Mm-hmm.
They can send us email, literaryafpod@gmail.com. And you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and YouTube, LiteraryAF.
I remember we are looking for new outro intro music.
Yes.
So if you're gifted in that area at all, hit us up and we can talk.
Send us an email, send us a DM, whatever.
And hey, you out there listening, don't forget to keep on reading.
Oh.
So should I just like sing a song instead of our outro music? Or?
I don't think you should, but
Books there for reading.